everyone. Welcome to the Success Without Sacrifice show. Today we are talking about, is it possible to have it all? Stay tuned. All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. On today's episode, we are talking about if it's even possible to have it all. My name is Kate Byars, and I'm the founder of the Good Life Institute. And I'm here with Jadine Cleary, our Director of Performance Coaching. Jadine, welcome. I know as a woman, you can relate to this topic because we are told that we could have it all, or can we, right?
Yeah, I think we're often told we can't have it all. And so if we want a high performance life, we actually have to choose. And so we end up feeling like we get stuck and, well, how do I choose? Because I don't want just a normal life. I actually do want it all. So I know you're going to talk to us about how we can actually have it all.
Yes. And I love your language in there, high performance life, because this show is for high performers. This show is for high achievers, overachievers, ambitious women who love your career. And let's just face it, you've put a lot of time and effort into your career, whether you're a doctor, an executive, senior manager, a seasoned businesswoman with your own, businesses or practice, attorneys. In other words, you are living a life on paper that so many people, see as being successful. But let's face it, ladies, success doesn't always feel successful. And that's what this show is about. How can success feel successful so you're really enjoying your life? So you don't step back, you don't step down, or you don't miss out stepping up and trading off a personal life that's really important to you. So I think this phrase of you can have it all is just so overused that what's happened is we've sort of moved into, I think for a long time, like in the 80s and 90s, we were told, women, you can have it all. What was that commercial? You can, bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan. That whole is it Angeli? I can't remember. It was some sort of cologne or perfume, whatever, right? So we were told we could have it all. And we were all like, yes, we can go out into the workforce and we can be, wear pants just next to the guys and be in our careers and have these really prestigious careers. But then, oh, by the way, you're still, going home at night and trying to cook dinner, and you're still trying to make sure that your children have, permission slips to go to their school field trip. And my word. And, as the decades have piled on top of us, ladies, we've just taken on more and more and more, and these Herculean efforts to take it all on. And even the guys, our partners are now taking on more and more and more, and everyone's dying under this crushing load of all the things. And so what's happened is we've moved into this cultural period of, I'm going to call it grace, where it's like, it's not possible to have it all. Stop it. That drove us crazy. We all tried. It didn't work. It made us feel miserable. We failed. We burned out. Stop trying to have it all. Just trade off one for the other. And so now what we're hearing that's very common in our culture is, look, ladies, you got to choose. You either get to have the big career, the high performance career, but you're going to have to sacrifice or really make some trade-offs in your private life, like, pushing off kids, kicking that down the road, or not getting married until later in life, or, the nanny's going to have to raise your kids for you and all these things. Or that's not what you want. Then you're going to have to somehow top out in your career. You can only go so far. Otherwise, you're going to have to give up these other things in your life. So all of that is wonderful cultural bunk. So I want to dispel that and tell everyone today is, look, we need to start looking outside these cultural memes and these cultural norms and start saying, okay, well, what's the new way? Because if you're listening to this broadcast, chances are you're someone who embraces trailblazing. You're someone who is more comfortable than most, as Jadine said, in living outside the norm. You're not someone who wants to settle, and you're sure as heck not someone who wants to trade off. Like, as high achievers, we hate not having control, and we hate not being able to live in freedom. I mean, just not being able to do that. Like, settling, when you say that word to me, I'm just like, okay, that's death. Like, no, I do not want to settle ever in my life. I want a big life. So let's start looking at how to do that. How can you have it all? Because the other thing that's talked about a lot is, well, you can have it all, but not at the same time. Okay, in all of this, what this really means, and that's not true as well. Like, we see client after client who come to us and they're like, Kate, I thought I couldn't have it all and you showed me how. Is what does that mean? So I want everyone listening to think about, what does that mean when you say, I want it all? Or what does that phrase mean? It's going to mean a little bit different thing to each person, but overall, let's take it back to what we always do, to human behavior. Having it all means you are getting your needs met using strategies that are authentic to you in the most effective way possible at any one point of time in your life. Okay? So, for example, when my children were first born, sleep is something that I really like. I like to sleep 8 to 10 hours a night. I wasn't necessarily able to get 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep a night when my children were babies, right? So even though that's the strategy I would have preferred to meet my need for health, my biological need for health, I had to accept a slightly different strategy at that chapter in my life. I was going to get 2 hours of sleep and then be up with a baby, and then 3 hours of sleep and then be up with a baby, and then maybe 2 to 3 hours of sleep, and then maybe take a nap in the afternoon. Did I like that? No, but it was a short period of time, and the trade-off was something I really wanted that was authentic to me, motherhood. And I wanted to be that person who was up with my child throughout the night. That may be different for you. You might have been like, oh my gosh, I hired a night nanny. She came in and took care of all that stuff, and I slept like bliss. Totally cool, right? The strategies we use are going to be slightly different. So when we think about having it all, what we really want to think about is, what is the emotional effect of what you're trying to get? So let's just go back. I'm just using motherhood for a minute here, and then we'll go into the workplace. For me, what I was trying to do by being the mom who was up at night with her kids was, one, meet my need for purpose and meaning. Like there's a purpose of who I want to be as a mom with my kids. Like really hands-on is important to me. Not everyone thinks that, and that's cool. You don't have to be a hands-on mom to be a great mom. That's just the strategy I choose. Okay? So to meet my need for meaning and purpose, I want to be a hands-on mom, and I want to be involved in those moments. The other thing it does is it helped me meet my need for connection. And when those two things were met by the strategy I chose, which was being up in the middle of the night with my children, even though I was foregoing some sleep that I would have liked, I felt great. So the outcome is the feeling, right? Now, there's another mom out there who's like, that would have made me feel like heck. I would not have felt great. I would have felt exhausted. I would have been, griping at my children. I would have been mean to my spouse the next day. If I don't get sleep, like those strategies would have made me feel awful. So when we say, I want to have it all, what you're talking about, ladies, is you're talking about, I want to feel a certain way. And those feelings are typically, I want to feel calm. I want to feel in control. I want to feel authentic or doing the things that matter to me. I want to feel meaning. I want to feel happy. They're these more positive types of emotions that we want to experience versus stressed, exhausted, overwhelmed, angry, frustrated, afraid, right? That we often feel as women in these high performance roles that we tend to carry throughout our life. And then we say, okay, well, it's not possible for me to have it all. Then what I need to do instead was get a whole bunch of time. And then somehow in that time, I'm going to shove together some semblance of a personal life. And that, as you all know, if you're listening to this broadcast, you've probably tried, doesn't work. Okay. So when we say I want to have it all, what we're really talking about is the emotional effect of a life well lived. That's what we're looking for. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It's interesting, Kate, because so often as high performers and as women who are trying to ride that line of wanting it all, we're often told to take the emotion out of it. That we actually need to be able to cope for a long period of time. The challenge with taking the emotion out of it is then it takes the emotion out of everything. Yes. And so it even takes the opportunity for the joy and the peace and the fun and the engagement. It takes it out of our equation of what we think life should be. And yes, what you're talking about is you're actually saying, let's define consciously what is the emotional impact and engagement you're looking for in your life. So it's a different way of defining what your all is.
Yes, totally. It's absolutely different. And this is what revolutionized my ability to have what I wanted, right? The two halves together, which is big, huge career, big, huge life. And whatever big, huge life means to you ladies, right? Like for me, it's like hands-on parenting and all this. And so let me give you an example of where this doesn't work. I thought I had it all When in my career, I went to work for in marketing for a company where I could do international marketing. That was my dream. I wanted this. I wanted to fly all over the world and get to go to all these incredible places and work with these incredible people, all these different cultures, and do marketing, which is something I love to do. Okay. So I found that job. I got the job. I started flying around the world. Doesn't that feel great, Kate? Okay, that part did. Except I also had this beautiful little girl at home who was waiting for mommy. And, now I started to feel guilty because, well, now I'm leaving her behind. And she doesn't like the fact that mommy's gone so much. And when I am home, my job fills up so much of our lives that I'm late to take her to Girl Scouts and I'm late to take her to the horse farm. And I'm yelling and screaming at her to hurry up and get her homework done because we have to hurry up to, get to blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And so then it was like, well, I kind of had it all, but I didn't because it didn't feel good, right? It felt great in some aspects, but it didn't feel good overall because the pieces weren't coming together. So that mothering part of meaning and purpose and connection with my daughter wasn't that we didn't have a strong connection. Like we had a strong connection. We loved each other. We spent time together. That was fine. It was how it was happening with a lot of frenetic energy, stress, doing things that, for her didn't help her meet her needs. And then I felt guilty about it. Okay. So now let's take this idea of having it all. So let's say for me, I still want this international marketing career that really satiates me. I want to travel around the world and go to all these interesting places, right? For my career. And it feels good when I do. But I have a daughter who is not comfortable with me traveling all the time. So think about this. I could have taken my daughter with me. I could have hired a school teacher or a tutor who traveled with my daughter and I. And so when I was in some amazing place for 2 weeks on a business trip, she could have been right there and in the hotel room at night. You know what I'm saying? But then, well, what prevented me from doing that? I couldn't see that as a solution because our normal world says that's not what happens. Kids have to be in school and they have to be in school this way and they have to be at home and they have to be in their bed and they have to be blah, blah, blah. And so I wasn't able to change my strategies to get the emotional effect I wanted, which was keeping her with me. And obviously, like if your kid's playing, I don't know, league soccer, you may not be able to pull them out of school that easily. But I could have in my situation. So that could have been a strategy I chose, I could have changed how often I was traveling. I could have done other things for connection with her when I was traveling, which is maybe leave her with people she would have preferred instead of who I was, getting her to stay with, who she didn't like. I could have been doing more of like, they don't have FaceTime back then, but more conversations with her where maybe I was reading her a bedtime story every time I traveled, being more involved versus just checking in with a phone call. And all of these things, what they do, even though they seem like these tiny little strategies, they start building that emotional, I'll use your word, Jadine, I love you always use currency, the emotional currency of feeling this is meaning and purpose. I'm getting my needs met. She's getting her needs met. We're both getting our needs met in a way that's pleasing to us. Not perfect. I didn't say perfect. She's not perfectly getting what she wants. I'm not perfectly getting what I want, right? But it's more pleasing to us and we feel calm. We feel connected. I feel like I'm being a good mom in the way I've come up with some different strategies. And when you start to get that emotional lift, now the guilt goes away. You're like, wait a minute, I am hearing her. I canceled the last business trip because she needed me home. This time I can't cancel it and she's going to have to understand. And you start making these compromises as you dance through that aren't sacrifices. Compromises do not emotionally deplete you. Sacrifices do. And a sacrifice is when you are sacrificing something that's very important to you for something that's less important, right? But when you're compromising, it's like, hey, I'm not totally getting my needs met, like with the sleeping baby, but I'm not sacrificing something that's really important to me. I was getting something more important to me, which was that mothering piece.
Yes, and knowing how to make those choices. Because for high-performing women, we want to drive. We hate it when other people drive. And so when you can start to understand fundamentally what your needs are, to your earlier point, Kate, then you can start to see what do you truly want and what do you want to truly experience. Then when you start to anoint and spend energy there, consciously when you're aligned with the highest version of who you want yourself to be, you access different energy and motivation and confidence, and you actually even see more strategies. So the system starts to build on itself. And to your point, if we're just struggling and we feel like society's driving or just our work is driving, we don't even see other options. And that's when we feel trapped.
Yes. And that's how I felt. I didn't see any other options. I was just like, this is what I have to do. Because if, again, if you've listened to us over and over again, like as a high achiever, we have to train our DNA. And my DNA at that point was saying, Kate, you have to sacrifice for the firm. You can't take your daughter and no one else is taking their kids. What would that say about you? What would people think about you? This is what you have to do. You have to work hard and suffer. And I was so bought into this training of my DNA that I was definitely pushing some boundaries and certainly asking for a little bit more as a single mom who was also an executive, but not enough. And I didn't understand that I had so much more runway to create a life that would have been pleasing instead of a life that eventually burned me out, because I felt like I was constantly playing whack-a-mole. Okay, I was going to give my daughter a little bit of what she needed. Oh, okay, great. And then I was coming over here and giving work what they needed. Okay, great. And then I was over here buying groceries and making sure the house was taken care of. Okay, and I was so exhausted from running in and out of all of these things that I thought I was supposed to be doing that I ended up, just after years and years of that, your biology can only take so much, where it finally says, okay, and you will start to have a mental crisis, an emotional crisis that says, you just can't do this anymore. And so what burnout starts to feel like is you start saying, I don't really care anymore. My job's not that important anymore. It doesn't really matter to me. So you will start to emotionally disassociate with this thing you used to love because you're getting more and more burned out. Emotion. And just like Jadine said, we ignore emotion for so long, ladies, that then all of a sudden we hit the wall and we either, whatever it is, blow up at our children or walk away from our careers and say, I don't care anymore, even though you do. Because that is what is designed inside of us to help us survive, right? If I just worked and worked and worked and worked, or if I never slept, and you didn't have an emotional feeling that would remind you that you need to sleep or you need to stop working, then we would just work ourselves to death, right? And so this is why biology is so key to this, because now I can work and our clients, they can work a 60, 70-hour week and still be highly connected to their spouse, absolutely connected and hands-on with their kids, potentially doing things, definitely doing things for their health to make sure they remain healthy. And maybe they're not doing hobbies that week. You might miss pottery class on that 80-hour week, whatever. But pottery class, again, is one of those things that, yes, you would like to do, but probably your relationship with your spouse and your children are more important than pottery class. And you can forego a pottery class one week, but you're going to feel awful if you kick your spouse to the curb, ignore your children, and then eat, nothing but chocolate bars and wine for a week when you've been on this amazing health kick, right? And so when you understand, I've got these biological needs, I'm going to choose some strategies to meet them, and that is supposed to give me an emotional impact that feels, I don't want to say good, but positive, right? Positive, because you don't always feel good. Like we don't always walk around going, I feel good, I feel good. There's times where you're like, okay, I don't feel good, I don't feel bad, I just feel consistent. But you get that feeling of like, I'm living my life authentically and well. Now all of a sudden you can work an 80-hour week, you can work a 60-hour week, you can work a 40-hour week, and you start to flow, and it becomes like, it's almost like being a painter and having all these paint colors available to you. And you're like, today I'm going to dab a little bit of health, a little more health in my day or my week or this month or this season of my life, right? And then I'm going to use this different color and I'm going to dab a little bit more connection. How am I going to connect with my spouse this week? I'm working an 80-hour week. Oh, you know what? He loves words of affirmation. I'm going to send him a whole bunch of texts this week, even though texting your spouse for the rest of your life is probably not the way to have a marriage that's successful. I can do it during an 80-hour week and still feel very connected with him, and I feel good. I get the effect emotional of that. He feels good. Oh my gosh, Kate's working an 80-hour week and she's remembered me and she's sending me hearts and love letters and things through text. And we're still highly connected. We're getting the emotional impact. All I've done is change the strategy. And then when I'm not working an 80-hour week, I might, whatever, go have a tea with him or play footsie or go out to lunch or read a book together or whatever we like to do. And so it becomes this beautiful flow instead of what we're typically living, which is whack-a-mole, running from one place to the next, trying to get it all done and fit it in this time-compressed lives that we live. Time doesn't go away. We still have the same amount of time, but you're using it more intentionally to get this emotional effect. And now all of a sudden it's just like, oh my gosh, there's this cornucopia of choices available to me to live this high impact life.
I was talking with a number of our clients today in one of our sessions, and we were talking about the impact of creating time. So when you talk about this, Kate, part of the beautiful thing of when we start to live our needs is we do come up from a more fulfilled place. And when we operate in that way, even opportunities or options at work become more clear. So for example, the conversation today was, you know what? I now am a lush executive. This is one of the terms one of the ladies was saying. And as a lush executive, I understand that now I can delegate. I delegate because I'm looking at where do I bring my value? And when we're full and when our needs are met, it's not even that we feel like we're making trade-offs. We're actually making conscious, powerful decisions to empower other people and live what's important to us. So the ease of the delegation, the ease of being able to say, no, that doesn't fit, all of these things come together to actually create more of the time that we're looking for to then ensure, to Kate's point, we get to spend that time strategically on what our most important needs are. And when we can help other people get their needs more effectively, we don't need the same amount of time because it's more potent.
Potent. That's it. Thank you. I couldn't have thought of that. That's so brilliant, Jadine. I agree. Because I think, for anyone out there listening, how as women we typically approach this, how you have it all equation is, well, I need to find more time. I need to have better time management. I need to prioritize better. I need to, I'm trying to think, what are some of the other things that people will say is, I need
time block.
Yeah, I need a time block. I need a calendar management, time block, things like that. And then how often have you taken that time block and you're so depleted, you're so exhausted, you can't think strategically anyways. So there goes your time block in the middle of the day, or, it gets covered up by 50 different meetings, or you go home and you're like, okay, I'm finally home early at 6:00 or whatever. And then you're just brain dead and you're just like staring at your children. You're not even involved with them. Or worse, they're like, mommy, let's play dress up. And you're like, oh God, that's the last thing I want to do right now is play dress up. I'm so beat, And so you're kind of like going through the paces, and then you feel what? Awful. You feel guilty. You feel like, a jerk in front of your kids who have waited for you all day to play with you. But it's like, wait a minute, if I understand that what I want is this emotional impact of feeling like a mom who's living on purpose and connecting with my children, and I walk home, walk into my family life at 6:00 depleted, and my children go, mommy, let's play dress up. I'm like, oh baby, I would love to play dress up with you today. I'm very in tune with my biology, and I'm like, you know what? But mommy's not able to play dress up, but I would love to take you to the park and push you on a swing and we could sing silly songs. Because I got that in me. I can push a swing, but I do not have any creative juice left for putting on a princess dress and running around the house and pretending like I'm Elsa, or whatever. I can shift the strategy very quickly in that moment to get the emotional effect where my child goes, oh my gosh, mommy, I love swinging with you. Yes, let's go do that. Or I can negotiate with my child. Well, I don't want to swing, but will you, I don't know, drag me around the block in the wagon, or I don't know, whatever. And then you do this other thing. And it's the same thing at work, right? You're just sprinkling in these different strategies to get this biological effect. Emotion is what tells you if you're effectively or ineffectively meeting that biological need. So if you're feeling guilt, that's probably ineffective, right? If you're feeling remorse, if you're feeling regret, if you're feeling anger, those are the emotions that say, hey, wake up, your biology doesn't like this. This is not really the best strategy to meet that need, right? But if you're feeling peaceful, if you're feeling content, if you're feeling fulfilled, those are the things that tell you, oh, I'm on the right track to meeting my needs. And this is what allows us to help women across all different industries live great lives. Who was it that we saw the other day, Jadine? I don't remember. It was someone, one of the doctors that we've been working with, and she just finished the initial 8 weeks of working with us in Corporate Women Unleashed. And she's like, look, I'm not someone who normally posts. I'm not someone who normally says these things. I've just kind of been doing my thing. But she had reached a point of severe burnout, and she was like, I'm done. I'm walking away. And this is someone who is literally saving people's lives on a daily basis, right? She is a doctor who is performing, amazing things, and she was ready to walk. She's like, I'm done. I cannot do this any longer. And now she's not only thriving in her career and understands very clearly how she can have it all, but she's teaching her children. Her children are seeing the changes in her. She's light, she's effervescent, she has AKA, it's not more time, but to your point, Jadine, she's using that time with potency so that everyone is getting that emotional impact, whether it's her team at work, people at work, patients, nurses, other people she's working with, or her children, or her neighbors, or her friends. And she's like, oh my gosh, this is having it all. And she said, before I saw your ad, Kate, I thought I couldn't have it all because everyone else says we have a cure for burnout. But it meant giving something up. It meant you have to trade off something that's important to you. And I'm telling you, ladies, if you are designed like me and like Jadine and like those who we work with, you will not be happy if you give up part of yourself, to get something else. You just won't. That's not going to bring you that emotional impact that you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. Keep going, Kate. I'm listening to you.
I'm on a roll. So, ladies, yes, you can have it all. It will look different than how society has told you. So if what you think having it all is, I'm going to work from 9 to 5, I'm going to work out in the morning from 6 to 7 every day, I'm going to have breakfast from 7 to 8, at 5 o'clock, I'm going to eat a healthy dinner, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to, take my children to soccer, at 7 o'clock, like, I don't know, whatever that Waltons, or I don't know I don't watch TV, whatever the latest sitcom is that's telling you, like, that's not what it looks like. It doesn't, like, having it all is not having what you want when you want it. It's recognizing that you have a big life. Challenges are going to be thrown your way. You're going to work 80-hour weeks sometimes. You're going to live on airplanes sometimes, like I have, right? But you can maneuver that through your biology and paying attention to your emotional signals. And when you do this well, you are going to come up with, like Jadine said, strategies. A strategy is just like actions, right? Like you're going to make choices differently that are highly potent, that give you the emotional impact you want, and that help you feel like, let's just say, a really great mom who's very, very involved with her children. But it may look different than what your neighbor is doing down the street, right? Maybe your neighbor spends all weekend on Pinterest and bakes cupcakes for the Monday morning class party. I don't ever want to do that. I just don't. Sorry. I don't want to do that. I am happy with, someone else baking the cupcakes. Some other mom can do it. My assistant can do it. Someone can do it. My husband can do it. I don't care. That's not what is meaningful to me as a hands-on mom. And sometimes I have to really sit down and think about those things. Does it really matter, Kate, if you bake the cupcakes? I'm like, no, but I definitely want to read to my children every night. I love reading to my children. That fills me up and it helps me feel like a great mom, and we connect and we laugh and we joke and it's fun and blah, blah, blah. So it's like recognizing that you can do these things and they don't have to take a ton of time. One of my favorite strategies, and then I'll wrap for the show, is when a lot of our clients who are in relationships will say, oh my gosh, I keep ignoring my partner. And, I just feel so horrible. And he or she, they're so sweet and they're so patient and they've done so much to help me have this great career and I'm not doing enough for them. And I'm like, so what do you want to do? And they're like, well, we just haven't had a date night in forever. And I'm like, well, okay, let's not start with date night because, date nights can sometimes be like exhausting. What's his love language? Oh my gosh. Well, he loves, I don't know, acts of service or something. I'm like, great. Well, what's something you could do for him? Like maybe you could watch the kids for a couple hours on a Saturday so he could go play Gods of War on PS5. Like, would that make him happy? She's like, oh my God, they would love that. Or maybe you can, again, just text him and just say, wow, I'm so glad I'm married to you. Like, when's the last time you've said that to him? And all of a sudden they start sprinkling in these very tiny little strategies, these little actions of like, oh my gosh, my husband is so in love with me. I feel so connected to him. Do you listen to what I feel great. I feel in love. I feel on purpose in my marriage. I feel like I'm giving him what he needs. And those feelings start to dial up. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we don't ever want to go on a date or we don't ever want to take a vacation. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be all or nothing. We don't have to have these huge months and months and months of depletion in the marriage in between vacations. You can have a lively, connected, vibrant marriage or relationship by just sprinkling these things in and paying very close attention to your emotional state. And when you dial this in, ladies, it's like butter. You have it all. You're just in flow. It feels great. And you get to have your big, juicy career and your big, juicy life. All right. So if that sounds like you, ladies, if you are someone who wants it all, you want to live a big life without the trade-offs, and you want to, not settle, then I have something very special for you. I want to invite you to have a call with a member of our team. It is a confidential 45 to 60 minute call where we are going to talk specifically about you, your career, what's working, what's not, and where you could be stuck. All right. And again, it's a third party person who has got no skin in the game other than to listen and guide you with their expertise because they have walked in your shoes. So I want you to go to goodlifeinstitute.org/call. That's goodlifeinstitute.org/call. And that'll bring up a calendar of all our coaches. Pick a time that works for you. And we will meet you on that call again to chat about everything that is possible for you based on your specific situation, and that will help you have it all. Now, if it works for us to potentially work together and it seems like that could be a fit as well, fabulous. Then we're going to tell you all about it. But if not, we will get you to some other resources, and that's fine too. All right. So no matter what, I want you to go to goodlifeinstitute.org/call. Don't put this off. Don't put this to the bottom of your to-do list. Don't think you're going to do it in 3 months after, the next big project gets done. Do it now. Make the space. Powerful women go out and grab what they want. They're decisive, and they don't let things get in their way. So let that be you. All right. Thanks so much for this, for coming to this episode. It was great to have you all here, and that's it. We'll see you next time. Hi, thanks for tuning into today's show. If you want to subscribe, you can do that by clicking the little picture of me over there. If you want to book a breakthrough call, which you absolutely should do, you can click the button below or go to goodlifeinstitute.org/call to book an appointment to speak to us. I'll see you on the next show.